In 1971, the Perron family moved into a charming 14-room farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island. The house, with its rustic charm and sprawling land, seemed like the perfect place for Roger and Carolyn Perron to raise their 5 daughters. Roger and Carolyn Perron were excited to start a new chapter with their 5 daughters, Andrea, Nancy, Christine, Cynthia, and April. The family of 7 was eager to embrace the tranquility and beauty of their new rural life. They were unaware of the dark history that awaited them. The house, with its picturesque facade, held secrets that would soon unravel, changing their lives forever. The farmhouse stood on 200 acres of land, offering plenty of space for the children to play and explore. The vast expanse of land seemed like a dream come true for the Perron family. Over the centuries, the land had witnessed a series of tragic events. The history of the property was marred by sorrow and loss, with each event leaving an indelible mark on the land. Suicides, murders, and unexplained deaths had plagued the property. These tragic occurrences had left behind a lingering darkness, an energy that seemed to permeate the very air around the farmhouse. The spirits of these unfortunate souls lingered, their energy trapped within the very walls of the Perron family's new home. The house was not just a structure of wood and stone, it was a vessel of haunted memories and restless spirits. The Perrons were a typical family, looking forward to a peaceful life in their new home. They envisioned days filled with laughter, joy, and the simple pleasures of country living. However, the idyllic facade of the farmhouse would soon crumble, revealing the sinister secrets that lay beneath. The Perrons would soon find themselves entangled in a web of paranormal activity that defied explanation. As the Perrons settled in, the energy within the house began to shift, and the true nature of their new home would soon become terrifyingly clear. The once welcoming farmhouse would transform into a place of fear and uncertainty, as the family encountered the inexplicable and the supernatural. At first, the paranormal activity was subtle. It was almost as if the house itself was testing the waters, seeing how much it could get away with before anyone would take serious notice. The Perron family noticed strange smells, like rotting flesh, that seemed to permeate the air. These odors would come and go without any apparent source, leaving the family puzzled and increasingly uneasy. Doors would slam shut on their own. Sometimes they would hear the creaking of hinges in the dead of night, followed by a loud bang that would jolt them awake. Whispers seemed to emanate from the shadows. These weren't just any whispers, they were faint, almost unintelligible, but filled with a sense of urgency and malice. The family initially dismissed these occurrences as the quirks of an old house. They tried to rationalize the events, attributing them to drafts, old wood, and their imaginations. However, as the days turned into weeks, the activity escalated, growing increasingly disturbing. The once sporadic events became a daily, almost hourly torment. Objects began to move mysteriously, furniture was overturned, chairs would be found in different rooms and tables would be upended as if thrown by an unseen force. Disembodied voices echoed through the hallways. These voices would call out names, whisper threats, and sometimes even laugh, sending chills down the spines of anyone who heard them. The children reported seeing shadowy figures lurking in the corners of their rooms. These figures would stand silently, watching, before disappearing as quickly as they had appeared. Fear and unease settled upon the Perron family as they realized that they were not alone in the farmhouse. The sense of being watched became a constant oppressive presence. Something else was present, something unseen and malevolent. It was as if the very air in the house had turned against them, thick with a malevolent energy. The children, with their heightened senses, were particularly sensitive to the paranormal events. They would often be the first to notice a change in the atmosphere, their instincts alerting them to the presence of something otherworldly. They would wake up in the night, paralyzed with fear, as invisible hands tugged at their blankets. The sensation was unmistakable, as if someone, or something, was trying to pull them out of bed. Footsteps creaked up and down the stairs even when everyone was accounted for. These footsteps were heavy, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. The once comforting sounds of the old house now sent shivers down their spines. Every creak, every groan of the wooden structure seemed to carry a sinister undertone, making it clear that they were not alone. As the paranormal activity intensified, the Perron family found themselves in a state of constant fear and confusion. Strange noises echoed through the halls, objects moved on their own, and an oppressive atmosphere seemed to hang over the house. Desperate for answers, the Perrons began to research the history of their home. They spent countless hours sifting through old books, vintage documents, and any records they could find that might shed light on their terrifying experiences. Their investigation led them to uncover a dark and disturbing past. The more they dug, the more they realized that their home was steeped in a history of tragedy and malevolence. The land on which the farmhouse stood was once owned by Bathsheba Sherman, a woman who lived in the 1800s. Bathsheba's name was whispered with fear and suspicion in the local community. She was rumored to be a witch, a practitioner of dark arts, who had made a pact with the devil. Her presence was said to bring misfortune and despair to those around her. Bathsheba was a mysterious figure, shrouded in secrecy and fear. Her piercing eyes and stern demeanor were captured in old portraits that seemed to watch over the farmhouse with a malevolent gaze. Local legend painted her as a malevolent entity who practiced dark magic. Stories of her rituals and incantations were passed down through generations, each tale more chilling than the last. Some whispered that she had sacrificed her own child to the devil, a horrifying act that cemented her reputation as a witch. The mere mention of her name was enough to send shivers down the spine of anyone who heard it. Although there was no concrete evidence to support these claims, the stories of Bathsheba's witchcraft had been passed down through generations. Her legend became an integral part of the town's folklore. The tales of her dark deeds were woven into the fabric of the town's history, a constant reminder of the evil that once walked among them. Bathsheba's story was told and retold in hushed tones, around campfires and at family gatherings, each retelling adding to the aura of dread that surrounded her name. Bathsheba died under mysterious circumstances in 1885. Her death did little to quell the fear and suspicion that had surrounded her life. Her spirit, it seemed, remained tethered to the land, her malevolence growing stronger over time. The very ground seemed to pulse with her dark energy. The Perrons began to suspect that Bathsheba was the source of their torment. Her rage, undiminished by death, echoed through the decades, seeking an outlet for her anger. The family was living in a nightmare, haunted by a witch from the past. Their once peaceful home had become a battleground for their very souls. The Perrons' lives were turned upside down as they struggled to cope with the relentless onslaught of paranormal activity. Each day brought new horrors, each night filled with terror. Seeking an outlet for her anger, Bathsheba's spirit seemed to revel in the family's suffering. The shadowy figure that haunted their halls was a constant reminder of the darkness that had taken hold of their home. The Perrons were trapped in a living nightmare, their every moment overshadowed by the malevolent presence of Bathsheba. The witch of Harrisville had returned, and she would not rest until her vengeance was complete. Haunted by a witch from the past, the Perron family faced an unimaginable ordeal. Their story would become one of the most chilling tales of paranormal activity ever recorded, a testament to the enduring power of Bathsheba's dark legacy. Desperate for help, the Perrons reached out to renowned paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. Ed, a demonologist, and Lorraine, a clairvoyant, were no strangers to the world of the supernatural. They had investigated countless cases of hauntings and demonic possessions, and their reputation preceded them. The Warrens arrived at the farmhouse, bringing with them an arsenal of tools and techniques for communicating with the spirit world. Lorraine, with her sensitive abilities, immediately sensed a dark and oppressive presence within the home. She could feel the weight of the unseen eyes upon her, watching their every move. Ed and Lorraine began their investigation by interviewing the Perron family. They listened intently as the family recounted their terrifying experiences. The Warrens, with their years of experience, recognized the signs of a powerful and malevolent entity at work. They knew that they were dealing with something truly evil, something that threatened the very souls of the Perron family. As the days turned into weeks, the Perron family found themselves under an unrelenting siege. It wasn't just the occasional creak or whisper anymore, it was a full-blown assault on their senses and sanity. Objects moved on their own, doors slammed shut with no one near them, and the feeling of being watched became a constant, unnerving presence. The children were the most affected, their innocent laughter replaced by fearful cries in the night. It was clear that whatever haunted their home had no intention of leaving, and the family had to find a way to fight back or risk losing everything they held dear. As the days turned into nights, the Perron family's ordeal took a darker turn. Carolyn, the mother, began to exhibit strange and terrifying behaviors. It was as if an unseen force had taken hold of her. The family watched in horror as Carolyn's personality shifted, her voice changing, her actions no longer her own. What could be causing this? Was it the house, or something far more sinister? Desperate for a solution, the Perron family sought help from experts in the paranormal. They needed answers, and they needed them fast. The investigators delved deep into the history of the house, uncovering secrets that had long been buried. They discovered that the land itself was cursed, and the spirits that haunted it were not about to let go easily. The family found some solace in these revelations, but the danger was far from over. The investigators set up their equipment, determined to capture evidence of the paranormal activity. Cameras, recorders, and other devices were placed strategically around the house. As night fell, the house came alive with unexplainable occurrences. Objects moved on their own, disembodied voices echoed through the halls, and shadows danced in the corners. The evidence was undeniable. The Perron family was not alone. Over time, the Perron house became infamous as a hotspot for paranormal activity. Researchers, thrill seekers, and skeptics alike were drawn to the location, each hoping to experience the supernatural for themselves. The house stood as a testament to the unknown, a place where the veil between the living and the dead seemed thin. The Perron family's story served as a chilling reminder of the mysteries that lie just beyond our understanding.